You know, every single day, our lives are supported by these huge, complex systems working flawlessly in the background. We never see them, we never think about them, but they are the invisible guardians of our modern world. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the most important ones.
Seriously, just think about that for a second. A simple carton of ice cream. It has to survive a massive journey, probably through blazing heat, across highways, in and out of warehouses, all without melting. How on earth is that possible on an industrial scale?
Well, the secret is this incredible hidden infrastructure that folks in the know call the cold chain. It's this whole world of engineering that keeps our food fresh, our medicines safe, even keeps the internet's data centers from melting down.
And let me tell you, this is not just your kitchen fridge made bigger. No way. This is a massive, incredibly powerful network of industrial-grade cooling. And right at the heart of it all is a surprisingly common but pretty potent chemical.
And that chemical is ammonia. It's really the unsung hero of industrial refrigeration. It's the workhorse responsible for keeping these enormous spaces at super precise, freezing cold temperatures. But this hero has a bit of a dark side. And this, right here, is the central problem, isn't it? On one hand, ammonia is just fantastic at its job. It's super efficient, super effective. But on the other hand, it's hazardous stuff. A leak can be extremely dangerous for workers and for the whole community around a facility. It's a total high-risk, high-reward situation.
So that really is the million-dollar question. How do you actually harness all the power of this chemical without ever falling victim to its dangers? And the answer isn't some magic bullet. It's actually a super meticulous, systematic process.
The answer is all about engineering safety into every single part of the process. And one of the most powerful tools they use looks, well, kind of boring on the surface. It just looks like paperwork. But as you're about to see, it is so much more than that.
What we're looking at today is a real-world checklist for exercising critical safety valves in a big ammonia system. And this document, this is our guide. You can think of it as a script for safety, designed from the ground up to prevent failure before it ever has a chance to happen.
You can really break the whole thing down into 4 key pillars. First, you prepare. Then, you identify. Then, you act. And finally, you document. It's this perfect little cycle of careful preparation, knowing exactly what you're working on, taking direct action, and then writing everything down so you can get better next time. Let's see how it plays out.
Okay, so now we're going to zoom right in on what these technicians are actually doing, with this checklist as our map. And you know what? It all starts way before a single tool ever touches a valve.
This is the pre-job safety part, and honestly, it's a masterclass in prevention. They're not just ticking boxes here, they're literally building a bubble of safety around the job. You've got LOTO, that's lockout tagout, which makes sure nobody can accidentally turn on a machine while you're working on it. And then there's PPE.
And PPE is not just, a hard hat and some boots. In this context, it's a very specific shield against a very specific threat. We're talking chemical-resistant gloves, airtight goggles, a full face shield. This gear is the absolute last line of defense for a technician, and making sure it's perfect is a non-negotiable first step.
So, with all that prep done, what's the actual job? Well, it's surprisingly simple, at least in theory. The technicians are exercising these critical valves. The best analogy is, it's kind of like stretching a muscle that you don't use very often. You want to make sure it's loose and ready to go when you really need it. So they turn the valve all the way one way and then all the way back.
And while they're doing this, they are paying crazy close attention. The checklist tells them specifically to record any binding, excessive torque, or incomplete travel. See, they aren't just turning it, they're feeling it. They're sensing for any tiny bit of resistance. Why? Because a valve that's just a little tough to turn today might be absolutely impossible to turn in a real emergency.
And this right here, this is where a simple observation becomes powerful, actionable data. Look at this example log. Valve HV101, perfect, smooth operation. But look at HV102, slight binding at 75% open. That tiny little note meticulously recorded is pure gold. It's an early warning flare that something isn't 100% right.
And here's the best part. That slight binding on valve HV102 doesn't just get forgotten. Nope. The checklist has a whole section for deficiencies and corrective actions. A work order gets created right then and there, and that valve is put on the schedule to be repaired or replaced. The system is built to find and fix problems, not just make a note of them.
Okay, so let's zoom back out for a minute. We've just torn apart a single,
Pretty technical checklist. But what does it really tell us about the world we live in? What's the bigger picture here?
It tells us that the systems we all depend on for our food, our power, our data, they demand a level of reliability that's just mind-bogglingly close to perfect. And procedures exactly like this one, this is how they get there. It's all about stomping out that tiny 1 in a million chance of failure that could lead to a huge disaster.
So you see, this checklist isn't just a piece of paper. It's the physical embodiment of a safety philosophy. It's a philosophy of being proactive, of preventing problems. It's the belief that the absolute best way to handle an emergency is to do everything in your power to make sure it never happens at all.
And that right there is the beautiful, invisible logic at the heart of all this. These critical valves, they might go years without ever being used in a real emergency. But because of this procedure, everyone knows that if that day ever comes, at a moment's notice, that valve will work perfectly. No questions asked.
So the next time you open your fridge, where you grab that carton of ice cream from the freezer, just take a second to think about the invisible guardians and the meticulous scripts they follow day in and day out. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other unseen procedures, what other detailed checklists are working right now, at this very moment, to keep your world running safe and smooth?